Hello everyone, this is part 2 of the story about my big experience. So previously I talked about this lady that drowned in Lake Nacimiento from where I'm from, and how I had a premonition, a voice, whatever you want to call it, and tried to save her, help her, and I failed. So as I said in the last video, I fell into a very deep depression. And I felt sick. I felt horrible about the whole thing. And I wasn't really sure what to do. So a few days later, my boyfriend says to me, I think you need to get some help. You need to find somebody who understands this stuff that might be able to help you. Maybe you should go see a psychic or somebody who can give you some clarity on this. But I feel like if you don't do something, you're gonna lose it, And I said, yeah, you're right. Well, so it so happened that there was a metaphysical workshop up the street from where we lived. And they were doing them on a regular basis. There's this little old store there that unfortunately had to close after COVID, but it had been there for over so many hundreds of years. And they had a lot of cool like crystals and cards and blah, blah, blah. And they would have workshops and psychic fairs and all these things. And I'd been in there many, many times. Well, as it turned out, there was a workshop coming up. And it was with a gentleman named Mike Smith, and apparently very well known for his channeling abilities. Well, I didn't really even know what channeling was. I just thought it was like what I did, which is just, you hear things and you do something, like mediumship, right? So I went to the workshop, not knowing anybody, not knowing what to expect. It was at like 8 in the evening in the winter. And, I walk in there and it's mostly women. There's probably about 15 women and maybe one guy and then Mike. And there's like this weird little closet set up with PVC pipe, and then he draped something over it like a big heavy curtain or something, so it would be like a closet kind of thing. And then there was a table in the middle with some other things on it, whatever. So we were all sitting around in a big circle. Nobody really introduced themselves or said anything. We just all kind of sat down, mingling, whatever. And then he started the workshop. And he was explaining like how he channels. And he had Father James, which apparently was a spirit that would come to him and give him information about the world, about life, blah, blah. And so he gave us an example. So he went into sort of like a meditative state, and then he channeled Father James, excuse me. And his everything changed about him. The way he looked, the way he sounded, his voice, he had an accent. It was really bizarre. And he said some very interesting things. And he also was really funny, by the way. And it was wild. And it didn't feel like he was acting. I mean, the energy in the room changed. I mean, my arm hair was standing up the whole time. Very impressive. So then I thought, oh, that's what channeling is. Wow, I didn't know I signed up for this. That's what I thought. Okay. So he led us through an exercise teaching us how to meet our spirit guides, which I did, which that's a whole nother story I can tell you. But either way, I met two. And one, I'm pretty sure, I know that now, but at the time I wasn't 100% sure, happened to be the woman that I saw that saved my life when I drowned in my grandmother's pool, who said to me, it's not your time, go back. And that was one of them. And after we did that exercise, he asked everybody like how much experience people had in the room. There were a couple people that I guess were regulars that used to come there all the time, but most of us were new to this, and most of us had never done this type of thing. And so he said, I'm going to allow one of you to go into the closet, which I told you, this PVC pipe closet, and we'll do a little opening prayer or an opening whatever for you, and then we'll close the curtains so you don't see anybody, and then we'll ask you some questions, and when you're ready to come out, you just come out, or we'll tell you to come out, or whatever. So I'm sitting there, and my back was to the wall, and I feel somebody behind me, even though my back is literally against the wall, and I have always had the urge to go first in anything where they say, who wants to go first? Even though I don't really want to go first, I always feel like I always go, oh, I'll do it. And sure enough, I felt that, but I didn't say anything. And then Mike turns to me and says, you're supposed to go in there. I went, oh. So, this is where it gets crazy. So I go into this closet thing, and as soon as I walk in there, I start feeling like buzzy, like very weird. And I thought, oh, I'm just nervous. You got to remember, I have a theater background, okay? So it wasn't about being in front of people. I don't care. I get in there. As soon as he closes that curtain, I start feeling like, oh, like I was electric. I don't even know how else to describe it to you. It was like electric. And I don't even remember what was said outside of that box until I heard Mike say something like, "Who am I talking to?" And when he said that, it was as if I was in there, but I was also somebody else. So there was a part of me observing and a part of me doing. So there was like this duality that I was not familiar with. And suddenly I started to talk, and I had a Yiddish German accent. And I was speaking in German a little bit. I don't know German. I don't. I know a little bit about German. I was married to a German man many, like 3 decades ago, but I didn't learn to speak German. I mean, I knew a few words. So I started speaking in this dialect, and I knew what I looked like, and I knew who I was. So he asked, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Hancha, of course." "Okay, Hancha." I know, weird name, right? He says, "Hancha, tell us, whatever." And so I know, I started talking to every single person in that room. Now, remember, I'm in a closet. I've never met these people. I don't know them, number one. Number two, I can't see anybody because I'm in this heavily curtained closet. And I start talking to each of them, telling them something about each of them that I could not know. Like one lady, I said to her, "Oh, when you were making cookies the other day, you left the oven off," or, some silly thing like that. Another lady, I mentioned her dog. Another lady, I was talking about something with her daughter. Another guy that was in there, I said something about his car or something. I don't remember what I said because it was like, I must have been in there at least 15 minutes, maybe longer. I don't know. Because it was just all, as you can imagine, I was just like, wow, what is happening here? So, just even telling the story gets me like, So finally, I remember Mike saying, "Okay, Hansha, it's time to go home now, and Molly needs to come back." And I remember saying, "No, I'm not done." Like, don't tell me what to do. Oh, she was also very funny, by the way. She was very like very bossy and funny at the same time. So, okay, so he ends the session somehow, and I'm sitting there, and he says, "Well, just come out when you're ready." And I am sitting there, and I'm literally drenched from head to toe, and it is cold in that building, okay? I'm drenched, and there's this like slimy, like weird film all over me that I have no clue, which now I know is ectoplasm. If you ever heard of it. Just like Ghostbusters. But I didn't know what it was. I just like, my skin felt weird, like I had gel all over. I don't know how else to explain it to you. So I come out of the room, my hair's, I'm a mess, I'm sure. And I'm stunned. I'm just like in complete shock. And I walk over to my chair, and you could see everybody just going, like, what the hell happened? And I sit down in the chair, and I'm just like totally tripped out. And I'm just going, wow, I can't believe this just happened. And I'm trying not to cry because I'm so overwhelmed, right? So then he says, "Okay, who else wants to go?" And some guy goes in there, and it wasn't anything like that. Okay, it was not even close. And I thought, God, I wouldn't want to go in there after I was in there, right? Well, weirdly enough, this very timid, quiet, mousy woman who had barely said anything the entire time we'd been there, suddenly does this sort of thing, like this. And she says, "I think I'm supposed to go in there." And I'm thinking, oh, that'll be exciting. So she walks in there and sits down, and they close the curtain, and she's muttering some nonsense in there, and we can't hear her, and trying to talk to her, and she's not really saying anything. Oh, God, I have a hard time even telling you this because it makes me feel weird. Suddenly she says, I can't even say it. She says, "Molly, okay, this is somebody I don't know." And this woman says she's never done anything like this in her life, by the way, before she went in there. She says, "Molly, the lady of the lake says thank you." She says, "Thank you." And right when she said it, and I'm telling you, I was sitting with my back against the wall, I felt this hand on my shoulder, like squeeze my shoulder. I mean, it was life-changing. So, then she muttered some other junk, and then she came out and acted confused. Okay. So I don't even remember what happened after that. I guess a couple other people went in there. I don't even remember now. I was so like, I was just sitting there crying. I just couldn't handle it. I just was flipped out completely. So when everything ended, and I think Mike came up to me and said something to me. I honestly don't remember. But what I do remember is I walked over to that woman that said that to me. And I said, "Hi, I'm Molly." You could have knocked this woman over with a feather. She was like, "What the hell?" And I said, "Thank you so much for giving me that message. It meant everything to me and I totally understood it." And she just was agog. I don't know how else to say it. And I gave her a hug and I went home. And I got home and I told my boyfriend about it and he cried and I cried. And it just was such a huge relief to get that confirmation that she understood that I tried. Well, I don't know why I did this, but I texted my mother the next day. And I just had a suspicion. And I said, "Mom, do we have anybody in our family named Hancha?" Because Hancha, what kind of name is that? But with the Yiddish accent and everything and coming from a Jewish European background, I thought maybe it's a relative. And in my spirit guide exercise, she looked familiar to me. And I did remember from the pool incident, but also I felt like I'd seen her somewhere else. So my mom texts back and says, "Oh yes, remember that very stern photo that used to hang in our living room? That's your great-great-grandmother Hancha." But she went by Yetta also. Her name was actually Henrietta. And I'd only heard of her being referred to as Yetta. So I didn't know. Hancha was her nickname. And the reason her nickname was Hancha, which I think is kind of cute, was Hancha is Yiddish for honcho, like head of the household. Like the head honcho, you've heard that term before? So Hancha was her nickname. And Hancha was very bossy and very funny and talked a lot and kind of liked to fib a lot to kind of cover up. Like, so she was heavy set and she'd say, I don't eat that ice cream, and things like that. So she was a character, to say the least. And I realized that she has been my spirit guide since forever. And I feel like she's the one who's always pushed me to do things that I've been afraid to do. She's always been that one that said, "Do it, do it, do it." And she was the one that was yelling at me to go help this Jill girl. And I realize now it wasn't because she actually thought I might be able to find her so much that she wanted me to start exploring my ability. And I'm going to guess that Grandma Hancha probably was just like me. I don't know. I don't have anyone to ask at this point in life. She is long gone. And so is my grandmother and my great-grandmother. So I can't ask. So anyway, but I'm gonna think I'm correct. So that's where all of this started. I know it's a crazy story in that, but I can't make this up. I can't. And I've got a great imagination. So now you know how I figured out what my calling was. And I appreciate you watching me go through this emotional roller coaster because it really is very emotional for me. I don't think it'll ever feel different to me to tell you the story, but this is just one of many of my stories. So I hope that you liked it. Please share, let people know about it. I'm sure there's other people that have had similar experiences. I want to hear about them, of course. And I'm always here to help. So have a great day. Have a great night, whatever. And I look forward to telling you more stories. Have a great day. Bye. Love you all.